Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about order of operations. Now what you see behind me is a pretty simple math problem. You may recognize this problem because, well, it circulated online a while back and probably every one of your aunts shared it on Facebook and then thought, I'm going to trick my niece or nephew with this at our family reunion. Now, what I want you to do though is try to solve this problem. Think about how would you go about simplifying this expression. What number would you get if you just did the basic operations here? Pause the video if you need to. Come up with an answer. Put it in the comments if you want. See what you get. All right. Hopefully, you've now had time to work on it. Come up with an answer. And we're going to talk about those. You might have gotten 1. Or you might have gotten 16. Or you could have got something somewhere else in between there. But I might be a little more concerned about those. Here's the deal. To solve a problem like this, we have to use something called order of operations. And I would imagine most of us remember order of operations from a mnemonic device that we learned when we were much younger in elementary or middle school. Now that mnemonic device was PEMDAS. Or if you were the type that wanted to allocate a word to each one, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now, each one of these letters, aside from representing what I said in that sentence, stands for a mathematical operation. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Now, I would wager to bet the majority of us remember this mnemonic device and remember what the letters stand for. But what we do is we take it, because of its ordered nature, as being a list of where we do parentheses, then exponents, then division, then multiplication, then division, then addition, and then subtraction. And if we followed this order of operations to solve this problem, let's see what we get. Well, parentheses, right? We're going to solve what's in there first. 2 plus 2. Well, that's going to be 4. So 8 divided by 2 times 4. And then we step down to exponents, but we don't have any exponents here, so we can skip that step. The next thing it says here is multiplication. Well, we have that right here. We have a 2 times 4. The 4 is in parentheses, but that indicates it's multiplying the 2. So we would end up with 2 times 4, or 8. And then we have 8 divided by 8. We get to our next step, division. And division says, well, divide those. 8 divided by 8, that gives us 1. And we don't have anything left to do here. Now, what's the problem with this? 1 is not the correct answer. It's not accurate. It's not right. But how'd that happen? We followed our order of operations. This is the deal with PEMDAS, with our mnemonic device for our order of operations. It can be very tricky because you have to remember it does not explicitly go step by step down the list. 2 of these steps take place simultaneously, and that is the multiplication and division and the addition and subtraction. What occurs is that multiplication and division happen at the same time, but it goes left to right in the problem. So you start at this side of the problem and you work your way all the way across, doing all the multiplication and division as you go along, as you run into it. It doesn't matter which one comes first, division or multiplication, or even if they flip back and forth, if you have a lot of instances of it. You work from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. So a more accurate way of writing PEMDAS would be, let me get my eraser here, to express it like this. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. So let's rework through this problem that we did Unfortunately, incorrectly. If we're taking a look at this, we are probably going to start in the same place, right? We start again with parentheses. And, well, we have that right here, 2 plus 2. That's not changing. We did that first step correctly. So I'm going to rewrite that in. 8 divided by 2 times 4. Now what happens next is the where we went astray. We don't have any exponents, so we still get to skip that step. But now we get down here to multiplication and division, happening again simultaneously left to right. So we're just going to start here and move across the problem and stop whenever we see either of these signs. So we stop right off the bat because we start with 8 divided by 2, right? So we're going to do that problem. 8 divided by 2 will get us 4, and then we'll rewrite the problem with that in it. And we're going to keep working our way across the problem. Now we run into that multiplication. 4 times 4 is going to get us to 16. And then if there were still any addition or subtraction or any more multiplication and division in the problem, we would continue on with that. But we got to our answer. We finished it up. So if you got 16 originally, you're spot on. You're right. But if you got 1, that's completely understandable too, because this problem kind of preys upon that easy misconception of how order of operations works. So it is very important to recall that these two happen simultaneously, as well as addition and subtraction. Now, as we start to get into more complex math, as we're getting into our Algebra 1 kind of subjects and beyond, we're going to have a few more operations than just these. I'm going to start right at the beginning here. Parentheses. In my own opinion, parentheses isn't the best term for the first step in the order of operations. Now, while most problems, we're going to see something like this. We're going to have those parentheses and say, okay, that's first. But it's not always parentheses that you are going to see that is going to require the first step. You may also see brackets that look like this, or you might see absolute value, something that looks like this, just big long lines on either side of a group of numbers. So this first step doesn't just mean we do parentheses first. It means that if there's brackets, we do those first. Or if there's absolute value bars, we do those first. So what I like to call this first step is not P for parentheses, but I like to use the letter G for groups or grouping. So anytime you have a group of your expression that is all put together in parentheses, in brackets, or in absolute value bars, then we are going to do that first. So I am going to change, for my own learning ability, this first letter that typically is P for parentheses into G for groups. Now what we also are going to be talking about is this second step, traditionally just E for exponents. In higher levels of math, or high school level math, I guess, apologies for our bell there, we end up having a simultaneous thing we need to solve along with exponents. Kind of like multiplication and division are simultaneous or opposites of each other, so we solve them simultaneously. As with addition and subtraction, exponents are solved simultaneously with something that starts with an R. But what would that be? You got it. Radicals. Now, radicals is kind of just a fancy word for what we might commonly know as square roots. So anytime you have an expression, if there are exponents or radicals involved, those are going to be solved simultaneously, left to right, as well. Now, we're not going to get into radicals in this video. I'm not going to write up an equation there that has that involved. But do know, for future's sake, that that second step is going to involve both exponents and radicals. And we'll do a couple problems like this in a later video whenever we address radicals separately. Just kind of like absolute value. If you're unsure what that is, then we'll be discussing absolute value in a later video too that you can check out on the channel. So, my own personal mnemonic device for order of operations, GERMDUS. Other people got PEMDAS. I got GERMDUS. It just makes sense to me. Well, if you have any questions about this, if you're unsure about anything, feel free to drop a comment below. I'll get back to it if I have the opportunity. And thanks for watching. See you next time.